Oh,
Good morning and welcome to the Daily Huddle for our Money Monday episode this week. We're excited to be here with you as usual and looking forward to our topic today. It's one that's near and dear to our hearts. Having our question of the day is how do you go from being an employee to being an investor? And we'll talk a little more in detail about that here in just a few minutes. But I'll start with a little quote from a book about this very thing. And it says the difference in mindset between the rich and the poor is that the rich invest their money and spend what's left. The poor spend their money and invest what's left.
So there you go, right? A little food for thought while we start this show.
Always wish I could play drums when I hear that. I play them under the table all the time, but gets me started. So,
well, good morning, guys. I'm Kimberly. This is Zach. We are your hosts for Money Monday on the Daily Huddle. So, thank you for joining us. Thank you for having us. Today, we have a great topic, like Zach said, that's near and dear to our heart. That how do you go from an employee to an investor? So it's going to be an intriguing conversation, if I do say so myself. But before we get started, let's ask our Daily Huddle questions. So, Rashida, I think I haven't heard your voice at least this week. What time is it and what are you grateful for?
Good morning. Good morning. Oh, what time it is? The time is right now, just right now. And what I'm grateful for, I'm grateful to be alive and to be having deep breath in the fresh air of the countryside. With that, I'm out.
I'm grateful for your energy and for you always bringing it every Monday morning on the Daily Huddle. So thank you for that. Chase, good morning. Where are you and who will you hug today?
Grand Rising. Zach, you need to get that drum, man. I'm gonna call you up. You need to get some drums. Let's make it happen, brother. Shoot. Don't waste it.
That's what I'm talking about.
Come on, let's get it. Let's get that drum happening. I am right here, right where I'm supposed to be. Did you ask me how? Let's see, I'm so excited about you guys. I don't even remember the question. Did you say, where am I?
Where are you and who
you did say
will
that.
you hug today?
Okay, my bad. I get crazy. I'm right here where I'm supposed to be on the Daily Huddle. And I'm going to hug a great friend of mine today who's going through some tough times. And if they don't know, I'm going to meet up with them and hug them. But I'm going to do that because I think it's necessary. So thank you for asking me that.
Yeah, makes you a good friend. I'm sure that it will change
I am
their
that.
day.
Grand day. Thank you.
Sorrel, how are you? We had this conversation already.
I know my answer.
I know your answer too, I think.
I am the way I say I am. And this morning I am hydrated, caffeinated, and raring to go.
Oh, there you go. You added a little bit to that. Well, awesome. Thank you guys for joining us and thank you for sharing. So
Absolutely. So I hope that this topic that we're going to talk about today, that it's not new to everybody. I know that if you hear us talk about the term employee, there are a lot of people that know exactly what that is. But how do we define an investor, right? And where are we coming from with this information? So Kimberly and I got started, as some of you know, back in 2002 in the financial services world, and there was some really good reading then that had just kind of come on the scene by an author named Robert Kiyosaki, and he wrote a book, I think earlier, 97 maybe, was Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which was about our mental relationship or our preconceived notions of money and how we should treat it, how we should handle it, how we should think about it, and it was very thought-provoking. As that grew and his research and popularity grew, it also became evident that there were different areas of success depending on who you were and where you were in life. And he started looking at how to define that and how to teach people to move from one area in life financially to through what he developed as 4 cash flow quadrants. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about this morning. I'm going to share real quickly just an image so you guys can see this. And I'm going to, it's one slide out of one of our presentations that we use. If I can get to from current slide here. Oops, hold on here. Current slide. So this is a good visual of what these 4 quadrants are. And we're talking about going from the top left, which is an employee. I own a job. That's all I own, right? I own the ability to show up and get paid, usually from a salary or a by the hour standpoint. Secondly is I'm self-employed. So I'm still very similar to the employee in that I'm trading time for dollars. If I'm not at work, I'm not making any money, right? So everything that I've earned is earned by me showing up and me putting in time. Ironically, those 2 categories are taxed at a higher rate than the other 2 categories are as well, based in our tax system. But he talks about a flow of maturity in finance from employee to, okay, I'm tired of working for somebody else. I want to become self-employed. And then I'm tired of having to show up every day to make money. So the first phase of being an investor is owning a business. And that's a business that you might be actively involved in, right? But it's not necessarily one that you have to be there in order for it to function.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in the employee and self-employed category, people run your business, right? And as a business owner, systems run your business. So it's a little different than requiring on you every single day to go out and actively work and get your hands dirty and do the labor that's required to run that business. You're in a different capacity. So that's all I was going to say. Section.
And so in that situation, the idea and the way to tell which quadrant you're in, if it's not really obvious to you already, is could you take a vacation and not miss a paycheck? Could you take a vacation for a week or 2 weeks and not miss out on getting paid? And sometimes with employees, you have paid vacation, those kind of things. That's not what I mean. I mean, does the business just continue to pay you the same way? And then the final quadrant where they say true wealth is created is in being an investor. And that's when it's not the things that you have, but it's the money that you have that's making money for you, that's growing on its own. And I mentioned the tax structure about these things, and I'll just hit on this. So the business owner and the investor own what's called passive income, right? So that passive income is taxed differently than actively earned income on your income taxes every year. So if you don't have passive income to report, then you are more than likely spending your time in the employee or self-employed category. So just wanted you to see that that visual there, so we can go back and have some conversation about how do I get from one of these to the next.
I think it's really important to know, because you guys, probably most of you know our story, but I'll tell you again really quickly. Zach and I both were school teachers. And we started in the financial services industry in 2002, just because we needed to make more money. We had 2 babies. We were paying for daycare for both of them. Teachers don't make a lot of money, and we made even less then. And so we were paying somebody else to raise our kids, and we didn't have enough money at the end of the month, truly. So we started in the financial services business because it allowed us to work part-time, but not necessarily trade time for dollars, because we didn't want to do that. We lived in Dawsonville, and you guys know there's probably there's an outlet mall up there, and we didn't want to go and trade 10 hours for $10 an hour and do things that way, because we didn't have more time really to give away, but we desperately needed more money. So we stuck our toe into the financial services business. So that was, I think, in the beginning, to go from employee to investor. And I think it's something that everybody works towards, right? Once you start looking at money and understanding how it works, and even if it's from a retirement planning perspective, you try to figure out how to acquire assets that will pay you, right? So it's not just your saved money and your saved earnings. But I think the biggest way to start transitioning from employee to investor, or adding that as well, and you can be in more than one quadrant at a time, so let's have that conversation too. But I think the biggest way to start is your mindset, because it's hard. It's a hard shift. It's
probably not what most of us were raised to think of. I mean, I know both of my parents were state governments, both of Zach's parents were teachers, and we were raised to get up, go get to grow up, to get a job after we went to college, and get a great pension and work 30 years and then retire with money that our job gave us for the rest of our lives. And it isn't that way anymore. So everything I think that we do going forward is a mindset shift. And I think switching from that employee mindset where I show up every day and I get a paycheck to, oh, I have to go and maybe run this business and get a paycheck is a different mindset for sure. What do you say?
Yeah, and I tell the story a lot about some people. It's a slow transition, or they're really hanging on tightly to the guarantees that they feel they have of an employee-employer relationship, whereas that they don't have to think about things from the business owner perspective. They don't have to think about profit and loss and where those things are going. But what they are doing is they're trading unlimited potential and financial resources for a security that's actually not that secure, as we learned in the COVID process. Because, and you see this with a lot of the major corporations heading into this recession, they're beholden to stockholders. And so when the bottom line shifts or the bottom line changes, they lay people off because that immediately puts more money back in the bottom line. So I want people to be aware, not afraid, paranoid, any of that kind of stuff, but aware that they control their own financial situation. That's what we teach on a daily basis, is to empower people to make more money, not just save more. But if we focus on how do I make more money? And one of the other things from one of Kiyosaki's books, he talks about his kids, or the rich dad and Rich Dad Poor Dad in that first book. One of the things he would not allow his kids to say is, I can't afford that, because that right there shuts the brain off. There's no more thought process. You've told your subconscious something can't be done. And the subconscious mind is a powerful thing. That's not our total lesson for today. But he made them change it to, instead of I can't afford that, if they saw something that they knew right then they couldn't buy, the question was then, how could I afford that? So it changes the mind from being shut off and shut down to possibilities to being immediately open and engaged into a creative thought process. And I love that about mindset and going from one quadrant to the next.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we do that with our kids as well, and with our teammates and people that work with us, and if they're listening, but you'll hear them. I'm sure they're chuckling, but a lot of times they'll say, well, if this happens, and I'm like, stop,
Yeah.
Stop. When? And they're like, what are you talking about? I say, when this happens. Don't say if, because then it's a possibility, right? We don't want any possibilities in there. We want to know what's going to happen. Might not be today, might not be on your timeline, but when this happens. And then our youngest, Harper, she came home from school. This was when probably second or third grade, and she came home from school and she was like, Mr. Scott taught me this lesson today, and we were walking the bridge. So if any of you guys know about the Ravenel Bridge in Charleston, it's a huge bridge, like 5 miles over and back, and it's a big walking bridge. And so we were walking that bridge, and Harper was walking it, and it's a tough climb, and she was like, I can't do it, I can't walk this bridge. And then all of a sudden she goes, yet. And I was like, what'd you say? And she was like, Mr. Scott taught us about the power of yet. And she said, I can't walk this bridge yet, because one day I know I will, right? And so same conversations with your money and with life and everything. We have this yesterday. We're in Greenville, if you can't tell, with our lovely hotel room backdrop. But one of the ladies was saying that she would try, and ultimately there is no such thing. You either do it or you don't do it, right? One way or another, you do it or you don't do it. And if you say, I'm going to try, or I hope to, or if, what was the Kiyosaki thing that you just said? I can't afford it. Then you bring that limiting mindset into your mind. So I think the first way to transition from an employer to an investor is to start working on your mindset. And really, as you hear those self-limiting beliefs that we've all grown up with, we've all been raised by, right? Then we start pushing that out of our mind, even if it's as simple as changing the word if in your vocabulary, right? And changing it with when, and allowing that to be a new habit. And then when that becomes a new habit that you don't think about anymore, adding something else. But I think for me, I think that's probably step number one.
you know, as simple as it may sound, is changing your mindset, working on your mindset, start believing that things are possible, you know, not we had this conversation too yesterday, but about teeth and dentists, and you know, they're expensive, and but not if I can afford to get my kids' teeth fixed, but when I can afford it and how I can afford it, because it is possible to make more money. It's possible for all of us to make more money. If we're an employer, if we're self-employed, if we're a business owner, if we're an investor, it is possible, right? Money is unlimited. There's so much money out in the world. We can all make it if we choose to. The question is, do we choose to, right? And I think that's the mindset that we have to get into. The only what did you call it yesterday? It's limited.
The only thing that's limited, the only resource we have that's truly limited is time. And none of us have any idea how much of it we've got. So we should be very focused on how we spend that, and make sure that we do it in a positive way that's getting us where we should be going. So all those things being said, we're big on mindset, because I don't think you can get anywhere positive without a positive mindset. Things don't happen accidentally. I believe that we're all, you know, putting one foot in front of the other with intention, whether it's a poorly planned intention or it's a well-planned one. We're intentionally wherever we are, right? We are where we say we are, and the time is now to do what, though? To get started. And so if we fix our mindset and we realize that and maybe you want to be an employee and you're happy with that scenario, I'm not saying that's a bad thing. Then you're talking about savings and investing and you know, being prepared for one day when you retire.
You can be an employee and an investor at the same time.
Absolutely.
Right?
You
If
can
you buy a rental property, you're now an investor because your money is working for you. Your money is producing income for you. You can still be employed and be an investor all day long, right? You can be employed and be a business owner.
There are a lot of people that have side businesses, side hustles, micro businesses, whatever you want to call it. You know, we know several firefighters in the Charleston area, and they have a full-fledged lawn business on the side, and they do really, really well in their lawn business, but they're firefighters too. Like, you can be both a business owner or that's probably more self-employed, but employee and self-employed at the same time, or employee and business owner. All of that is possible to do simultaneously.
Yep. So it's like we talked about last week. I'll hit on with just to kind of tie this all up. Last week we talked about totally lost my train of thought. Last week we were talking about
Tax value, tax-free.
banking on yourself, banking on yourself. So in order to be your own bank, you first have to build your own bank, right? You have to acquire the assets. So the first step in moving from being an employee to being an investor is to save and take a leap, right? So start your own business, whether it be one of very little overhead cost, right? It's one of the things that a lot of people want to be their own boss. They want to own a business, but they're afraid of the risk. They're afraid of the loss of guarantees, and they're scared of what the investment might be. There are a lot of businesses out there that require very limited capital outlay up front. Ours being one of those that we started 20 years ago with a 40-hour course and an affiliation with an IMO to start selling insurance. So that type of business is incredibly affordable to get started and also profitable very quickly. So look at that and put yourself in a position to accept that there might be opportunity for you. And then once you see that there's opportunity, or you believe that there's opportunity, it's all around you. It's not scarce. There are opportunities everywhere if you put your mind and your own self-belief in a place where you think you're worthy of it and you can handle it. So that's our big step towards moving from being an employee into the other quadrants. And then your mind grows, your dreams grow, your aspirations grow and change as you allow yourself to realize how abundant resources are.
And that is possible.
It's possible, yeah. What about some questions, comments?
While we're waiting on you guys to I see you, Sorrel, say this really quickly, but the other thing that I think is mind blowing, and I wish I need to ask the CPA, like, so, or tax strategist. I don't know that CPA is the right person. We'll have that conversation later, but I'd love to pick their brain about actively earned income, right? Because that's what a job is. That's what self-employment is. We are working to make money versus
passively earned income from our businesses, from our investments, from our rental properties, all of that, they're taxed significantly differently. One is taxed as ordinary income, and the other one is what? Capital gains. And it's a lot smaller, at least at this moment, to be taxed on capital gains. And when you start thinking about it from that perspective, it just, I don't know, it blows my mind. I think maybe sometimes I'm a little, money dork, because when I start thinking about things, it's kind of like a Pandora's box. The more you know, the more you want to know, and the more you want to know why and understand. And anyway, so it's just fascinating to me. So, Sorrel.
Good morning, Kimberly and Zack. I love the fact when I read Robert Kiyosaki's book, I had the mindset that the quadrants on the employee side were bad, and the quadrants on the business owner and investor side were good. And that my job was to hurry up and move from one side to the other. So I love the fact that you're saying, no, it's not a bad side or a good side. It's be aware of where you are and create through mindset changes the life that you want by combining one. And it's like right now I'm both an owner, an investor, and an employee.
Yeah.
I'm three things. It's like, oh, it's one side's not bad and one side's not good. So here's the question I have on top of this insight. When somebody's just starting out, you're an employee. I got the first advice: save so that later you can bank on yourself. But in terms of being an owner, in your experience with your team members, what do you find is the easiest, quickest avenue for someone to be an employee, be saving, and creating a system that would work for them in the long run, like being in the three spaces?
Well, obviously, we're pretty partial to what we do, right? Or isn't what we would do. So I would tell you, find a business that you can plug into, whatever that is, but something that allows you to be in business for yourself, but not by yourself. So you have mentors, you have a system, you have something where you're learning, because learning how to run a business is a totally different conversation, right? Because it requires so much more than any of you, I never thought about. Like, I grew up and my parents were employees, and I never really thought about owning a business, honestly. Like, it was nothing in my mind. So I think really, in order to get started and to be successful, it's to follow a path that people have already started and that people are already successful, but that allows you to learn on your own, but not by yourself. So for example, in our business, right, in the financial services business, when people join us, a lot of times they're part-time because they work other places, because they can't go from their salary to totally, being on their own independently day one, or they might fail. A lot of people probably would, right? So allowing them to partner part-time and having a mentor that's going to teach them and hold their hand until they are successful, and allow their income to dictate if and when they ever choose to leave the employee side. Maybe they won't, maybe they will. To me, I think that's probably the safest and easiest way to start something like that. Network marketing businesses, I think from when we started out, we were in college, right? We were young, broke dreamers, we're happy in love, and we wanted to save the world and make all the money in the world, and we had no idea how we wanted to do it, and we went to school to teach, right? So that was not the avenue. But we started out in Amway, and we learned. We didn't make any money. We probably spent a little bit of money, right? But we learned so many valuable lessons about people and building a business and mindset and all of that, because that's what those businesses are great for. That's what those businesses really do. So again, I'm biased, right?
Yeah.
If you're asking
And,
me if how people can be successful, I think that's a very cheap and easy path to self-development, business ownership, at least understanding how that works. Even if you want to go out and jump out and do something on your own totally differently, it gives you the mindset, I think, the path and to be successful. So
Yeah.
you might have a totally different conversation. I don't know.
No, we like to consider ourselves a self-help program, a business development course attached to a great financial income piece, because we teach people originally how to fix their own house financially. That's when we sit down with somebody. It's like you can't sell a Ford and drive a Chevy, right? You gotta understand the story that we're going out to tell when we go out to tell this story. And the first question people ask is, have you done this? Is this something that you've put into practice, and how does it work? Satisfied customers are 10 times more effective advertising than any kind of a blast or a mail out or whatever else. Because if I'm talking to my family and friends about how much better I feel about my finances, I'm going to garner more business and those kind of things. So yeah, focusing on yourself and getting started in some light. And then obviously when you make money, pay yourself first. That's the other, when you start making additional income, don't go buy new things first, right? Pay yourself first, meaning pay your future and save and invest. So focus on a very affordable way to start making more income. If you're going into these things where you got to spend $25,000 in the hopes of one day making some money back, steer clear. Don't do it, right? It's not, somebody's making $25,000, right?
And put
Yeah.
flyers in your neighbor's yard. It doesn't really matter, but I think as far as, in my opinion, building a business and really understanding a lot of the psychology and philosophy behind building a business, companies like that are awesome because it teaches you that side of it.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah,
So.
I want to join you on the side of being biased, Kimberly,
Yeah.
and ask this question. So I'm explicitly inviting people to consider joining your team.
Right.
Given that's the case, in 1 minute, what does a year in the life of someone being mentored and groomed by you look like?
Their lives?
Huh?
Yeah. What would it look
It
like?
depends.
Their life, yes.
I think it depends. I think it depends on their goals and their dreams, right? So some people come just like we started in this business and we wanted to make an extra $500 or $1,000 a month. It's totally different than people that want to make a couple $100,000 a year or have even bigger dreams, right? But mentorship and guidance, we're always available. So we have weekly trainings and things like that. There's so much you can learn. Everything is recorded, but you're not going to make any money. And it's going to be more difficult if you try to use what we do as a self-educated career. I would much prefer to have appointments with you, sit down with you, run those appointments for you, just like a student teacher, right?
Mhm.
Just think about student teaching, think about a pilot. Both of those people have to sit and watch someone else doing their job. Then they have to become that person while their mentor, their teacher, or the pilot are sitting there watching to make sure you still don't mess it up, right? And then eventually it becomes their classroom or their plane or something like that. That's what a year in the life of being mentored by us is. It's starting out watching, then we're going to watch you, and then you're on your own and you're successful because we want you to be successful. And if that was a minute, it probably wasn't a minute, but that's what it looks like.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Rashida, I know we're closing out, but I also know you had a quick comment or a question, so I didn't want to ignore you.
Good morning, guys, and great rising. Trust me, very important topic, and I live by it. And I always say that being an entrepreneur and business owner, running 3 LLC, you work more than anyone in that company. Is the only way. You wake up earlier, you go to bed late, you have tons of paperwork, and everybody give you complaint. So we really have to be more mentally stable to be able to really focus on things. And I remember good, know that you was talking about Think and Grow Rich. And trust me, I remember my kids wanted to go to camp, and I said, okay, I will pay you camp, but I need you to read this book before you go to camp. And until today, these kids them still remind me Mom, you remember when we have to go to camp and we have to read this book before we go to camp? And trust me, when they went to camp and come back, they come with a different concept have life itself. And until today, they run their own business with the same concept that they have learned in that time when they read the book. So thank
That's
you
awesome.
for the topic. Really important topic to run with it. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yes, you're
Thank you.
welcome. All right, Ron, I see your hand.
And I know we're running out, so we'll wrap up right after this one.
1 minute over time.
I know, don't say that.
Just follow up almost on Soel's question, but what is the earning of a financial advisor? I mean, somebody that does your work, an apprentice. How does that their earning is formulated? Is it based on how many potential client, or is it based on the value of the investment of the client, or what? Give me your best shot on that.
Sure, I'll take that. So the reality of it is it's people are in different markets and they have different circles of influence. So everything that we do for the most part is based on either assets under management on one side or a commission based on a sale that's made. We teach people how to help families, not target families, to sell commission-driven products. So we're really focused on what's best for the client. But to start out with, once somebody that's being mentored by us, that's in training, once they get the license that legally allows them to get paid on whatever type of business that we're doing, in most cases, a lot of times we start with a life insurance license. They'll be in the field with us, like Kimberly said, being mentored, learning, and we'll be sharing in that revenue on the clients that we close, right? So we'll split sales. And then the more they learn, we say with responsibility comes more income. So the more you learn, we have a set system that allows them to get promoted through the compensation guidelines to get to the top contract level. And that then allows them to go and train folks as well. But we want to make sure that that's done well and easily duplicated. So when we start talking to families out there, we want to make sure that our new people are trained well before they go out on their own to do that. But it is definitely based off of what is sold. And then is it split because you have help in the field, or is the compensation 100% to the person that's doing the work?
And I think as far as how much can you make, I think the answer is as much or as little as you want, totally depends on you, your goals, and we can, if it's something you're interested in, we can definitely schedule a time to talk to you and show you our system and then, show you how to make the amount of income that you want to make. But with that being said, we are super late because, we are. So we're going to wrap up with our 8 tenets. So as we leave today, remember to love, laugh out loud, stress less, eat mostly plant-based, give, sleep, move, and check yourself before you wreck yourself. Like dancer over here. So enjoy your day. I will see you tomorrow morning on the Daily Huddle. Bye, guys.
Bye.
One love, guys. One love.